Imagine being dropped into a world with absolutely no civilization whatsoever, only wilderness, and you had to choose one element and survive there for a year. Which element would you choose? You could probably do it without any extra element, but which one would help the most, basically, is what we're going for.
It's gonna be obvious. It's earthbending. I think earth.
All right, obvious. Oh, okay. Just kidding.
My bad. I mean, hey, I wouldn't.
I think it's gonna be water for me personally.
Oh, okay.
Crystal?
It has to be air. Yeah, contest.
Am I gonna go fire? No.
You would.
No. For survival, I pick water as well.
All right, 2 waters, 1 air, and 1
Interesting.
earth. Let's go ahead and go into the context of actually surviving in the wilderness. By the way, we have no experience with this, so
I was a Girl Scout, so I think
I've watched Bear Grylls show. So-
I've watched Dr. Stone. Okay, I know how to create
watched Bear
soap.
Grylls.
Obviously, you're gonna need to get food. You're gonna need to create shelter. We're probably gonna leave out the psychological parts because there's nothing you can really do about that.
Here, I'm gonna sum it up because I have the Maslow's hierarchy of needs open. But
yeah,
basically,
go for it.
we're covering physiological needs, which is food, water, warmth, rest, and then we could go further and do safety needs, which is security and safety.
Yeah. And I think hygiene is something that's probably important too. But all right, so let's go with Chuku first. Why do you think Earth is the best for those things, like surviving?
I mean, obviously with Earth, when it comes to survival, I mean, in terms of having shelter, you can create your own shelter. For example, if you wanted to get apples off a tree or whatever, you can use earth bending to help you levitate. I mean, I know you can do it with other elements, but I feel like earth, you can actually if let's say I want to use a tree, let's just say I want to use a tree for shelter, it's easier to maneuver with earth. It's easy to defend myself with earth, especially if I have the seismic sense like Toph. Something tries to attack me, bam, It's just I don't know, it's just for any use, as far as killing stuff for food, you can do that easily with earth.
Yeah.
You could the only thing I can say, and this is where if someone picked fire bending, this probably would help, is cooking food. But you could still make fire off of other stuff. So, and I just feel like rocks, there's much to maneuver when it comes to being on the wilderness that you can do.
Earth was my second pick, actually. So I think Earth is a good pick overall.
I definitely do see the value of water in sense of getting something to drink, but at the same time I feel like if earth, you can create let's just say there's a stream, you can create you can almost move the rocks in a way where you can make the current come in your direction.
Yeah.
So at that point, especially since we say there's no any person or any human that's going to attack you or do anything to you, I feel you have more control. I mean, at that point you basically control the earth. So yeah. So that's why I think Earth is the best.
All right, I'm curious to what you have to say about air, Crystal.
Yeah, it was the first one that popped in my mind, really, when we talked about survival. Briefly, water crossed my mind, but I mean, depending on where you are, say there's not even really drinkable water wherever you are that you were dropped into. You could waterbend, drink the undrinkable water, possibly get poisoned, contaminated. Okay, we're just gonna roll that out because you can't drink contaminated water. But yeah, you need water, you need food, you need physical protection, all that. And we can argue that all of these elements can protect you and give you security, whatever. I feel like air is the most important for survival because it is the bending that can most easily give you a means of fast transportation, and it's omnidirectional in any direction. So say you are under attack, if you don't feel like you want to fight, you can easily evade by getting to higher ground by, pretty much flying, floating out of there. I watch a lot of Bear Grylls, and sometimes he'll get safety. He'll build a mini tree house. If you can easily get to the top of a tree without having to climb it up and down, you can easily build a shelter up there in the trees, using air powers.
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm hinging on is just being able to move to places very easily and very fast, getting to higher ground easily with air. Say you don't even know where you are, if you need water, you can get to the highest ground that you can and see where water would be. You can pretty much see all the terrain around you, see what area is like unlivable, rocky terrain, go and see like where the vegetation is, go to that area and travel there very quickly. And yeah, that's why I think air is the most valuable for survival and obtaining the things that you need. So not just water, but getting food from the vegetative areas,
and like
finding areas that have shelter, like caves, like warmth and rest and all that, you know.
Yeah, and assuming you're like in a place that's not very good for surviving, you can easily get out of there as well. Or
yeah,
and also in like Dr. Stone, they collect a lot of different resources that only grow in certain areas. So like, I suppose it's better to be able to move around pretty easily. But that's more for luxury versus survival.
No, even in Man vs. Wild, what's the first thing you do when you're trying to survive? You need to scout the area. You need to pretty much walk the perimeter of whatever area you're in. If it's like an island, you look throughout it and see where your resources are. I mean, bending is not going to create resources. You can just manipulate them in your general area. If you have air bending, I'm telling you, you have an easy way of covering all that ground and finding where the resources are to survive.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the transportation thing, it's definitely the best for sure. But let's see, me and OC both chose water.
Sure, I can explain my reasoning behind choosing water. Basically, my thinking was this. Okay, so we're talking about survival. And one of the most important things, like, we can only go 3 days without drinking water before, like, we die. And so if you have the ability to basically pull water out of air, or like the things around you, the plants, the ground, depending on like how humid it is or how moist everything around you is, then you're pretty much set on that, which gives you a solid 30 days, because you can go 30 days without eating. It gives you a solid 30 days to find a source of food. So ideally, if you are like in absolute wilderness, like I'm assuming like there's nothing around you, and you can at least get water to survive for the next month until you find a source of, you know, a valuable source of food. And then after that point, once you have water, once you have food, and once you're able to like settle down to create a shelter, there's really nothing else, you know, to do after that, for the year. If nobody's bothering you, it might the other elements might come in and make it easier at that point, but I'm talking about like that beginning point of just surviving
and
the first couple
and
of
even
days.
this that I thought of for water, because you know we can talk potential sub elements as well. Healing, you can heal yourself, very useful. And then another thing, ice, you can store your food, and actually like you don't have to eat it all before it rots, because like there's no refrigerators and stuff like that. So those two things can come in very handy for survival for water.
Very true.
And also the fact that ice, depending on how dense it is, can almost be as hard as certain stone and rock. It helps create shelter as well, as long as like you have the clothes for it, like as we see in the North Pole in the show, as long as you have the right clothes for it. And waterbending, you can travel through the rivers, the oceans. There's a lot of that as well. So there's still a good means of fast transportation. I feel like Earth might be the hardest, depending on like how strong you are as an earthbender.
I don't know. I saw Toph when she broke out of the metal. What's it called? When she broke out of the metal chain.
I know the scene. I know the scene you're talking about, where she's like right in the earth, basically.
Yes, that's pretty dope, man. Not to mention there's sand bending as well, but that's assuming we're in the desert. But yeah, I mean,
but yeah, like food storage for ice bending, it's just the most convenient in my opinion. And then what OC said about like water, if you're a good bender, you should be able to separate the water from, like, as we've seen in the show, like Katara has separated water from mud. She's taken it out of plants. She can take it out of sand and dirt in the desert. So there's a good chance that by doing that, you at least like purify some of the water, or at least make it cleaner. So it helps with keeping you from getting like random diseases and whatnot. And also if you start bleeding, assuming you can bloodbend, maybe you can like prevent or like even like catch the animals easier that way as well. But assuming you can't bloodbend, you still have a good chance of catching the animals by like throwing icicles or just capturing them normally.
You just need to go to a river with fish, and then you're good.
Yeah, exactly. There you
Like,
go.
that's it. You just need to go to a river
yeah.
with fish.
So I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think all the elements support the fact that you can catch food easily.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about fire. Why did none of us choose fire?
I mean, fire is difficult for me just because it's so its value is more in protection, I think. So if you want to protect yourself against wild animals, I suppose that fire would be great for that. Although earthbending, you could just literally create a barrier and that would solve that
and then
problem.
like cooking food, you can just create your own fire, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fire goes.
Because technically you guys can create lava if you're earthbending. So
That's true. You could. Yeah, we can melt.
but I don't see how that could help that much. Maybe
Yeah.
protection, like extra
I mean,
protection.
maybe. I mean, well, we could with lava. Can't you like make like crystal out of it or something like that? If I'm correct, or like for
lava.
example,
But what's the point of that? Like,
that's if I want to look nice, like have a nice house, bro. Like I don't care. I'm gonna survive
Now
by
we're getting
myself.
to like the top of the pyramid.
That's the thing.
That's like,
Like,
self-actualization.
After you survive, like I think fire would probably be the one that could help you develop the quickest. After like you're already able to survive, because you can like generate power to like power machines or something like that. If you're smart enough to create a machine that can be powered by your fire, then that
Yeah.
would
Yeah,
that
but
would help.
what
Fire is
pieces would you
important.
need?
Yeah, but we know
Yeah, that's the
people
thing. You have
existed
to-
before fire, so it's like they survived before that. Like,
right. But that's my thinking.
yeah. I mean, has any of the explanations swayed anybody? Out of curiosity, or does everyone stand by what they first chose?
I completely stand with what
I-
Search chose. But I do
stand-
I do appreciate the different aspects of like
Viewing
air,
it?
especially
Yeah.
they're viewing it. I definitely do have a different opinion on those things. So
I feel like
but-
everyone came into this with like a different game plan for surviving too. I mean, for me, like I said, covering as much ground as possible, and it's not just ground, but like you can travel on water too if you're an airbender. And I think just being able to like cover that much ground is invaluable. And then that's why I stick.
Yeah,
with
for
it.
sure. All right. I mean, let us know in the comments what you guys think, because, you know, I'm sure we're missing a lot of elements of survival. Again, we are not experts at this. It's just a fun thought experiment. So if you guys have anything to say about which element you guys think is the best for survival, let us know. If
yeah,
you
tell us why
enjoyed-
fire is the best.
If you enjoyed the video,
You can try.
go ahead and like and subscribe. All right, later.
Later.
Peace.